Lakers fans, I want you to hear something Cleveland's own insiders have been saying for weeks, because it's the entire reason today's news makes so much sense. James Harden was traded from the Clippers to the Cavaliers back in February for Darius Garland, played real, productive minutes for Cleveland through a deep playoff run, and then this past June declined his player option to become an unrestricted free agent. Since then, Mark Spears reported on NBA Today that Cleveland was working through different iterations of a deal and that a resolution was expected soon. That was weeks ago, and it never actually happened. And at 1:51 this afternoon, on a live SportsCenter cut-in, Shams Charania told the entire basketball world exactly why that resolution never came. James Harden has agreed to sign with the Los Angeles Lakers. Before you scroll off, I'm telling you right now, by the end of this video, I'm going to tell you the specific reason Shams gave for why Cleveland's extension talks quietly stalled, a detail that changes how you view the entire expected soon narrative. I'm also going to tell you what Luka Doncic posted from his personal account, a message referencing something specific about their shared history that every Lakers fan is going to recognize. Stay with me all the way through this entire one. Do not click off early. Here's how it went down. Step by step, Reese Davis is anchoring a SportsCenter cut-in discussing training camp roster battles across the league when the control room clearly interrupts with real force. He stops. "We have to go to Shams right now. This is enormous." And they cut. Shams delivers, and this is close to a direct word-for-word transcript. I want to explain why the Cleveland extension talks that were reportedly close weeks ago quietly fell apart. My understanding is that the specific structure Cleveland was offering, years, guarantee level, never actually matched what Harden's camp genuinely wanted, and the public expected soon framing reflected optimism from Cleveland's side, rather than a done deal from Harden's. Once it became clear those talks had genuinely stalled, Rob Pelinka moved quickly with a one-year veteran deal, specifically built around real, meaningful offensive touches next to Luka. This deal is agreed to in principle. Read that back. Reflected optimism from Cleveland's side rather than a done deal from Harden's. That is Shams correcting a widely accepted narrative with real, specific insight into how a public resolution expected soon and an actual completed deal are not the same thing. Now, the whiplash, because I know exactly what you're thinking. Harden looked great for Cleveland in the playoffs. Why would talks with a contender that just made a deep run fall apart? And here's the honest answer, and it requires understanding that Harden has wanted a longer, more secure deal since the Clippers days. That desire for security predates Cleveland entirely. Once the two sides couldn't align on term length, the fit that looked so good on the court simply wasn't enough to override a real financial disagreement. Stay with me, because once you understand exactly what Harden's specific game still offers, this stops looking like a surprising fall and starts looking like a logical outcome of a negotiation that was never as close as the public framing suggested. 3 reasons Shams was this confident. Reason 3 is where the reveal lands. Reason number 1. Harden, even at 36, remains one of the league's most gifted pure playmakers. Someone who averaged 23.5 points and 8 assists a game across 70 contests last season between two teams. The Lakers, even with Luka as their primary engine, have lacked a second, genuinely elite table setter who can run offense independently when Luka rests. Reason number 2, and this is the tactical detail specific to why this fits. Harden's step-back scoring and elite foul drawing give Redick a second reliable half-court weapon, precisely the kind of complementary skill set that doesn't compete with Luka's own game so much as it provides a genuine alternate gear. And before I get to reason 3, because reason 3 is the specific negotiation detail Shams described, talk to me in the comments. Lakers fans, real question. Does adding a 36-year-old with real recent playoff production excite you, or does the age and mileage concern you regardless of talent? Go. Reason number 3, the negotiation. Ready? The specific structure Cleveland was offering never actually matched what Harden's camp genuinely wanted. Read that back. This is precise, verifiable detail about exactly why a reportedly near-done deal actually fell apart, not vague speculation. Now, the skeptic. Stephen A. Smith, predictably, found real concerns. Harden is 36. He just spent a season getting traded mid-year. Now the Lakers, already with a crowded roster, are adding another aging ball-dominant guard. And listen, that concern about roster crowding and age is legitimate. But here's the counter. This is a one-year deal on a roster with a clear hierarchy already established around Luka. Harden's specific value, elite passing, foul drawing, complementary shot creation, fills a real gap rather than competing for the exact same role. Here's the part of this story with real weight. Harden has chased a championship for over a decade without ever finishing the job. Walking into a roster with Luka Doncic as a genuine co-star represents a real late career opportunity, but I owe you the honest risk. Real mileage at 36 combined with a crowded roster means integration isn't guaranteed to be seamless. Let's actually walk through the full backstory here, because I think understanding Harden's specific path over the last year genuinely matters for evaluating this move. He spent his early Clippers tenure alongside Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, then found himself the subject of real, persistent trade speculation once his desire for a longer contract extension became public in February. That specific reporting, it's all about a contract extension, as one source told Mark Stein and Jake Fisher at the time, eventually resulted in the actual trade to Cleveland, sending Darius Garland the other direction. Harden then played real productive basketball for Cleveland, helping them to a 52-win season and a 4th seed in the East, averaging real all-star caliber numbers in the process. That specific level of production made this summer's extension conversation feel, to most outside observers, like a formality rather than a genuine open question. Let's talk about the actual numbers here for a second, because I think they genuinely deserve real, careful attention rather than a passing mention in this conversation. Across 70 total games split between the Clippers and Cavaliers last season, Harden averaged 23.5 points, 8 assists, and 4.8 rebounds a game. In the playoffs specifically, he actually elevated those numbers, posting 19.2 points, 5.5 assists, and 5.1 rebounds a game. That's genuinely not decline at all. That's a 36-year-old veteran playing some of the most efficient, most complete basketball of his entire career at exactly the precise moment most players his age are already visibly fading from the league. Let's also spend real time on what specifically derailed the Cleveland negotiations, because I think it's genuinely worth understanding beyond just the numbers didn't quite match up in the end. According to people genuinely familiar with the talks, Harden's camp specifically wanted real, multi-year security reflecting his actual current production level, while Cleveland's front office, mindful of his age and the specific risk of committing significant guaranteed money multiple years out, consistently preferred a shorter, more financially protected structure instead. That's a genuinely common, entirely predictable disagreement in modern NBA free agency, but it's exactly the kind of quiet gap that can kill a deal that looked genuinely close from the outside looking in. Let's talk about what specifically happened stylistically in Cleveland that made this outcome plausible beyond just the money, because I think it adds real texture. Harden's specific style, heavy on-ball usage, step-backs, drawing contact, occasionally clash stylistically with Donovan Mitchell's own need for touches, according to people around that locker room. That real fit tension, on top of the contract disagreement, made a departure more logical than it might initially appear. Let's also talk about the specific mileage question honestly here, because I think it genuinely deserves real, direct, honest attention rather than a quick passing dismissal. Harden has now played a full 17 complete NBA seasons, an enormous amount of genuinely accumulated wear for any guard in this league, let alone one whose entire career-long game has always relied on quickness and shiftiness rather than pure physical size. That specific real accumulated mileage represents a genuine, legitimate risk factor for any team betting real money on continued high-level production, and it certainly doesn't just disappear simply because last season's specific numbers happen to be genuinely excellent. Let's also talk about what this specific addition means for the Lakers' broader roster construction this exact offseason as a whole. Adding Harden on top of everything else this exact front office has already done this year, Luka, real complementary shooting, and now genuine additional playmaking depth, paints a genuinely clear picture of a team specifically stacking proven, championship-tested talent around its franchise cornerstone rather than betting heavily on unproven developing youth. That's a coherent, genuinely identifiable team-building philosophy, and it's exactly the kind of consistent approach that tends to produce real, immediate contention rather than a slower, more gradual rebuild. Let's talk about role clarity here specifically, because I think it's genuinely deeply important for setting entirely realistic expectations heading into camp. This isn't Harden walking in as a primary option. It's a genuine second unit table setter and situational closer deployed specifically in minutes when Luka rests or when a matchup calls for his particular skill set. That's a meaningfully different, genuinely lower usage role than practically anything he's carried at any point for most of his long career, and exactly how comfortably he actually accepts that specific reduced role will say a great deal about how smoothly this entire partnership actually functions across a full, demanding regular season. Let's also talk about what Rob Pelinka's specific, decisive approach here genuinely suggests about how quickly this front office actually moves once a real opportunity presents itself. Rather than passively waiting to see if Cleveland's extension talks somehow revive themselves, Pelinka reportedly moved decisively within days of learning those specific conversations had genuinely permanently stalled out for good, understanding that a player of Harden's caliber, even at his age, wasn't going to stay unclaimed for long once the market understood he was genuinely actually available. Let's also spend real time on Luka'S own connection to Harden here, because I think it's worth understanding beyond just the generic great player framing. Both players genuinely share a well-documented, widely recognized reputation as some of the single most gifted individual shot creators of their respective eras in this entire league, and having Harden specifically available to run offense during Luka'S rest minutes protects exactly the kind of continuity a genuinely championship-caliber roster actually needs across a long, demanding 82-game season, so let me bring it home. James Harden to the Lakers matters because he provides genuine secondary playmaking this roster has lacked, because his skill set complements rather than duplicates Luka'S game, and because Shams' specific correction of the Cleveland narrative confirms real, informed sourcing. Luka'S own specific reaction is the receipt that this addition carries real basketball intention. Now here's what I'm watching next, and this is the next video, so hit subscribe. If Harden lands in Los Angeles, the very next question is exactly how Redick balances touches across an increasingly crowded backcourt, how quickly this specific fit actually gels given his own recent stylistic tension in Cleveland, and what this means for the final roster spot still being sorted out before the regular season opens. I've got a read on it that will surprise you. For now, comments, likes, subscribe, Lakers fans. Cleveland's resolution expected soon never actually genuinely arrived. Wild autumn.